y'all, welcome back. Happy Saturday. I hope you guys have had a wonderful week and I hope your weekend is going spectacular. And I am back today to scare you guys with more stories that have been sent in to me because I refuse to read them alone, and if I have to be scared by them, so do you. I have forgotten to say this in the last 2 story times I did this week. If you have any stories you'd like for me to read, long or short, please send them to the email in the description and put YouTube in the little subject line. I cannot believe I just now realized I forgot to say that in all the other videos. Anyways. Alright, let's start off with story number 1. Hey Morgan, I'm a huge fan of your videos and have followed you for a while now, but that's not the point. But I appreciate it. These 2 stories are really short, but give me the creeps. Around 6 months ago, in my apartment, I've now moved out, me and my mom and sister were going to go driving to get ice cream late at night at around 10:30. We were searching for my mom's keys and we couldn't find them, and after 20 minutes of searching, we gave up and sat down on the couch and started talking. Small detail, but my mom has killer instinct and she knows where almost everything is at any given time. So we were sitting on the couch and my mom creepily said, "Mia, look on the bench." Right? So I turned and there were her keys straight on the bench corner, like someone wanted us to see them, and there they were. 150% not there when we were looking. The second part of this story was when I was having a trip to another state. My mom told me when I got back that one night at around 3 in the morning, my dog started going ballistic at the bathroom, like totally psychotic, barking and growling. My bathroom was on the 2nd floor. My stepdad got up and walked down the hallway and saw my dog snarling and growling at nothing, but the tap was on and was about to overflow and spill water all over the floor. Not that scary, but definitely eerie. Story number 2. Hello, my name is Rachel and I'm from the UK. I love your content, but I need some help. I want to apologize in advance. I have dyslexia, so there may be grammar and spelling mistakes, and it may be a bit all over the place. I'm also dyslexic. You're good. I've always seen and heard things since I was a child, and I would see spirits. When I was 20, I fell extremely unwell, and it's taken me almost 10 years to recover, but I'm here on the other side. Since I've been feeling more myself, my paranormal experiences have heightened, and I don't really know how to deal with it. I'm currently trying to find someone to help me navigate and understand this. I moved back with my parents last year because I lived in a haunted place. If you'd like more stories from that time, let me know. Yes. Since I moved into my mom's, it's been much better. However, in January of this year, I heard "hey" in my mom's voice. And it's normal for us to chat in the evening, but it was strange because normally she would just shout, "Rachel, can you come and help me?" And I'll go, and then I heard "hey." And I replied and got no response. And when I get into my mom's room, I say, "Did you call for me?" And she says, "No." 4 days later, it happened again, and this time I went into her room. She wasn't there, and I felt my blood run cold. Thought I was going to be sick. I went downstairs, and there she sat. I told her what had happened, and she doesn't really know what to do or help me. It also happened with my dad's voice around 2 to 3 weeks later. I would just like to add that it wasn't always "hey." Sometimes it was my name. It was so bizarre. It went really quiet for a while, and I started getting feelings like I was being watched, and the same feeling when I went to my mom's room and she wasn't there. Not all of the time, it was scattered. On the 24th of August, we went to a bowling alley that has escalators that goes up next to stairs. As you get up to the top, there's 2 directions you can go. If you go to the left, there are doors that the public can't enter, and to the right, there's an arcade and bowling alley. Sorry for explaining all of this, but it is important. My sister and niece took the stairs, and I'm lazy, so went on the escalator. As I was heading up, I saw my sister, and she walked to the left. I didn't see her go back to the right, and I was so confused. I went to the doors and couldn't see her, and looked over, and she was at the counter in the alley. I chose not to say anything then. My family is aware of this ongoing issue. A bit later, I was coming back from the bathroom and heard my name being called, Rach, but I couldn't make out if it was my niece or my sister. I took a few glances around and found them at a table nowhere near where I heard this. I froze again and the same feeling washed over me. Later that day, I built the courage up. I said to my sister, "When you got to the top of the stairs, did you go left or right?" I also told her that she needed to be sure, and her reply was that we come here every 2 weeks. Why would I go left when the arcade and bowling alley is to the right? Oh, there's something in my eye. On the 2nd of September at 4 in the morning, I couldn't sleep, and I went downstairs to get a drink, and I just felt that feeling and felt sick. Honestly, I can't explain it, and when I try and say this whole story, I think people think I'm going crazy, and I just need some advice. I get a feeling that I know what it is, but I need some outside opinions. Thank you for reading if you get this far, and I do apologize about it being all over the place. It honestly wasn't all over the place at all. I knew it was happening. So, with everything that's happening, with it mimicking, people's likeness and people's voices, with you getting that feeling of being watched, I kind of am scared this is a mimic. First and foremost is try to ignore it. See if it eventually goes away on its own. If it doesn't, then we have more issues, but don't acknowledge it. Don't follow anything. Don't answer. If you see something weird, if you hear something weird, pretend you didn't. Don't be entertaining to it at all. And, don't talk about the experiences out loud if you can help it. I know it's difficult, but it will help. And sometimes if they get bored, they will leave. But if they don't, check back in and we will talk about what I did to get rid of my mimic. But please keep me updated on that. All right, story number 3. I was around 4 or 5 when this happened, and I think it was around the time me and my family moved to the house that we are living in to this day. For context, I was sharing a room with my older sister, and she hasn't had any personal encounters as I'm going to state today. I remember this happening over a course of months, usually in the middle of the night. Anyways, one night I wake up to this very deep, very uncanny demonic voice telling me to let it in, and I remember being so scared to the point that I couldn't speak. But I did say no, and after I said no, it scratched me. I still remember the pain. As for a child, it was the worst pain I'd felt and truly scarred me. As stated above, it happened every night for weeks or months. It's hard to remember because it was so long ago. I remember telling my mom, and she didn't believe me at all. Also, I remember being so scared that I hid in my closet and tried to hide from it. It felt like it watched me or followed me in there because I got scratched while I was in the closet. A few years later, when I was around 8 or 9, my other sister, not the one I shared the room with, and I used to randomly wake up with huge scratch marks on us. It hasn't happened since I turned 10. I also have other scary encounters, probably not going to tell because it's short and not interesting, but my mom states and swears by what I said to her when I was little. She says that I told her I picked her to be my mom, which I believe because I'm interested in the spiritual type stuff. I'm not as connected to my spiritual side anymore as I once was when I was younger. Disclaimer, my house is thankfully not haunted, as I haven't encountered anything of recent. The only thing I really get is bad vibes and a bad feeling like I'm being watched still from the outside of my house, as my yard is quite big and I do unfortunately have a small gathering of trees. I think I accidentally summoned something once because her room still gives me the creeps. Very bad vibes. I don't go in there at night anymore. Alright, let's read one more story. And my husband got a shout out in it. Hi Morgan and Eric, my name is Cami. I've loved your videos ever since I first discovered what happens in the Appalachian Mountains. This may be a long story. I'm also very unorganized, so I'll try to make the story make sense. I have a theory for the occurrences that happened around my family. I think they all connect to my great-grandpa. When he was younger, he wasn't too great of a person. My family's told me the stories about him encountering the devil that presented himself as a dog at first, then morphed into a creature with horns. Since then, things seem to follow my family. My grandma, my mom, and aunts were all born and used to live in Mexico. It was said that in the house they grew up in, a Mexican legend could be seen on a jet black horse wearing a black suit and hat. I don't remember who, but a family member said that they saw him once. My grandpa had a guitar hanging on the wall that would randomly play. After moving to the U.S., my grandma has lived in a trailer house for a while. That's where the occurrences got worse, especially after relocating my great-grandpa to her house. She had her house blessed by a priest, and many times it seemed to make it worse. My mom was his caretaker, and he had Alzheimer's and was very weak. She was alone in the house a lot, and she has the most stories out of anyone in the family. Here are some. Once she was talking to my aunt and facing a chandelier in the dining room. This is all in my grandma's trailer. The chandelier suddenly starts swinging back and forth. She was alone with no windows open. Another time she took a mirror picture in my grandma's room that is in the room with the most activity. She looked back at the picture and said she saw a little girl standing in my grandma's closet that had been closed before taking the picture. The little girl was the entity, or we don't know what she is, that we saw the most. We named her Emily. My aunt and stepdad also have things behind them in pictures. My aunt has an old man with horns and a cane behind her in a picture that was taken in my grandma's house. My stepdad has a skull-looking thing behind him. The picture was taken in our trailer's house. That's why I say it follows. My mom and grandma had to tie down my great-grandpa in order for him to not wake up and walk around at night. He would wake up untied and unclothed most nights. One night, my grandma said that she went in to check on him and says his face seemed distorted with an evil face. He talked to himself a lot, but we say it was his dementia. One of my aunts has seen the little girl walk past my grandma's room, and we also had a dog that only barked at my grandma's room. But the story I find the scariest is my cousin's. At one point, we all lived with my grandma as we all moved to the U.S. from Mexico. My cousin, who lived and slept in the living room, said he was blasting music in his headphone when he heard a little girl laughing in his ear. He says he sat up and looked around and saw a little girl run into the kitchen. When he went to check, she ran into the hallway that led to my great-grandpa's room. It's been 4 years since my great-grandpa died, and my grandma moved her trailer to another property. The activity has died down since. My grandma has seen the little girl in her room, and one day after moving, my cousin, as a joke, put a paper on the fridge saying, "We miss you, Emily." That night, my grandma says she woke up not being able to breathe properly and felt a heavy weight on her chest. She said she couldn't move either, but since that, nothing has happened. Sorry for the long rambles, but I hope you enjoy it, and if you decide to read it, I hope your followers like it as well. Also, what do you think about my theory, or am I crazy? I don't think your theory is crazy at all. I definitely think it was connected to your great-grandpa. I think there's a lot of moving parts in there that cause that to happen, that someone would really need to sit down and, map it out and, put it all together. But yeah, I definitely think it's centered around that man. That is horrifying. That is so scary. For some reason, when you were telling this story, all I could think of was the movie The Dark and the Wicked. I don't know if you've seen that, but I don't know why. It's about this family on a farm. The kids grow up and move away, and they have to come back because their dad's passing away, and he's passing away, and this like evil entity is like leached onto him and is just like causing havoc around the farm. And I don't know why I'm thinking of that movie with this story, because it's not like all exact, but that's all I can think of. Anyways, we're gonna end it with that horrifying story. If you haven't watched that movie, go watch it. But I will see you next week and have even more stories to tell.